Splatoon is a game starring Mario characters. Oh, wait. Splatoon is a game starring rabbits. Nope, that's not right either. Splatoon is a game starring Mario characters and rabbits. Mother! Splatoon is a game starring squids and octos that can turn into humanoid forms and participate in turf wars, in which the goal is to cover more turf and ink than the other team in 3 minutes. It started on the Wii U in 2015 and is currently in its 3rd installation, which is the one that we are going to be focusing on today. Splatoon 3 is set in the Splatlands of the Splatoon world, a kind of wasteland-styled setting with deserts, a large city called Splatsville, the main hub for the game, and the ruins of the Eiffel Tower. See, even Splatoon hates the French as much as we do. Seriously though, I believe that this game is the strongest of the Splatoon games yet. Splatoon as a series is full of charm, but this game pushes it to the max with its setting, characters, and music. But is it actually good, or is it just a $60 DLC to Splatoon 2, as so many people like to claim? I mean, I think the answer is pretty obvious, but let's take a deep dive and check it out. Before jumping into the gameplay modes of Splatoon 3, I want to touch on the hub world real quickly, because there's actually a lot of that mentioned charm here. When you open up the game, you'll always be greeted by this game's idols, Deep Cut. Each Splatoon game has its own set of idols. Splatoon 1 had the Squid Sisters, Callie and Marie, Splatoon 2 had Pearl and Marina of Off the Hook, and Splatoon 3 actually has 3 idols, being Shiver, Fry, and Big Man. I love these guys so much, they're awesome. It's really cool to see their performances on Splatfests, which I'll touch on later. But Deep Cut aren't the only faces you'll meet in Splatsville. There are shops to visit too. There's Ammo Nights, run by Sheldon, where you can buy all the game's weapons. Not Culture, run by Gnarly Eddie and his tiny helper snail Nails, where you can buy all the hats and headgear to drip out your inkling. Mana Wardrobe, run by Gelafleur, where you can buy a bunch of shirts, jackets, and various other clothes. And Crustacean, run by Mr. Coco, where you can buy a bunch of shoes for your character. Clothes have practical use too, besides looking absolutely fresh. They give you little stat buffs depending on what ability is on there, such as increasing movement speed, jump height, and defense to name a few. There is one more shop called Hotlantis, run by Harmony, who doesn't actually work there. She just never leaves, so management just kinda put her in charge, and there isn't a thought behind her eyes, and I absolutely adore her. Anyways, you can buy a bunch of items to put in your locker, a new feature which can be found in the lobby. It's purely cosmetic, but it's a lot of fun to decorate your locker with a bunch of items, stickers, and your favorite weapons. The community has been having a lot of fun with it too, especially since one of the first items you unlock in the story mode is a Moai. There's another character called Merch who's located right outside the lobby. He offers a bunch of different services, such as ordering gear from other players, scrubbing ability slots, adding new abilities on using ability chunks, and a few others. And that's still not all. There's a small minigame called Table Turf, where you can use cards you've obtained from the story mode, the Shellout Machine, which is a standard gacha machine in the lobby, offering a slew of rewards, and the catalog offered by Hotlantis, which you can level up by doing multiplayer matches. You then use said cards to battle and claim more area than your opponent in a set amount of turns, with each card offering a different amount of area. It's pretty straightforward, but can be pretty intense and difficult, especially if you get locked out from the rest of the board early on. Splatsville overall is such an interesting location. There's so much detail hidden in every corner of the city, and it's such a joy to just walk around in. But of course, there's more to a game than just a hub world. Alright, now for the juicy stuff, the gameplay. Once again, the main gameplay of Splatoon 3 is the Turf Wars, a 4 vs 4 game mode where you have 3 minutes to cover the map in more ink than the opponents. You can pick one out of a whole arsenal of weapon types, including, but not limited to, shooters, chargers, rollers, dualies, brushes, god how I despise brushes, and the 2 new types, Splatanas and Stingers, both of which are either amazing additions, shaking up things a lot, or mediocre side grades that do what its parents do better, depending on who you ask. You mean worse, you idiot! Each weapon acts differently, with even more variations within those types for a total of 54 current weapons, with more certainly on the way considering how Splatoon 1 and 2 added more weapons during its lifetime. You shoot ink, but you also can turn into a squid and hide in the ink to move faster, climb up walls, and recover ink. You shoot the ink to recover the ink. Go figure. In addition to regular turf wars, there's a ranked mode called Anarchy Battles, with a series mode where you can try to win 5 matches before you lose 3, and an open mode where you can team up with your friends and coordinate together to win, with admittedly less rewards. There's 4 different modes to fight in. There's Clam Blitz, where you need to collect clams and throw them into the other team's basket to score 100 points before the other team does. Tower Control, where you need to ride a tower through checkpoints to get to the end goal in the other team's area. Splat Zones, where you need to keep an area under control with ink for more time than the opponents. And, my personal favorite, Rainmaker, where you escort a special weapon called, well, the Rainmaker to a pedestal in the other team's area before they break through your defense and do the same to you. Maps and game modes rotate about every 2 hours, which rotates between 2 maps for all 3 modes, and 2 game modes, 1 for series and 1 for open anarchy battles. Which makes it so that as soon as you're starting to get annoyed with the maps or mode, it will switch out to a fresh new map. But if turf wars don't suit your fancy, there's another mode to talk about, Salmon Run. A mode where you and 3 other co-workers get launched down to a small area with rising and lowering tides, with an assortment of random weapons that rotate about every 1 to 2 days along with the map. After a brief grace period, hordes of creatures called salmonids will start rushing from the waters and on splatting you. There are 2 classes of salmonids, lessers and bosses, with the lesser category being made up of mostly small fry, chum, and quahogs, with snatchers coming down and stealing golden eggs, which is the main thing you will be collecting for Mr. Grizz, a mysterious and shady character who owns Grizzco, who sends you on these missions. Now, how do you get golden eggs? By taking down boss salmonids, of course. There are a bunch of different bosses in the game, with the most common being steelheads, maws, stingers. I hate these guys. What's that? Can't go anywhere? Must be a steel eel. Scrappers, drizzlers, love is in the air? Wrong. Flyfish. Please, God, somebody help with the flyfish. And 4 new ones. Fish sticks, flipper floppers, big shots, and slammin' lids. Each boss drops 3 golden eggs that should be deposited in the egg basket. The location of the basket depends on the tide, with lowering tides having it closer to the shoreline. There are 3 total rounds, each round having a quota of eggs to collect. If you fail to meet that quota, or everyone gets splatted, you get booted out, and Mr. Grizz, while paying for what you've done, expresses his disappointment and might lower your pay grade. Aw, well, excuse me, sir. It's not my fault one of our team members disconnected during a glowfly level. Oh, right, speaking of, note occurrences. Special events in which it grows dark and new mechanics are introduced. Some of these events are giant tornadoes, fog so thick you can cut it with a knife, mudmouth eruptions, Goldie seeking, and rush. Or, as I like to call it, off! Glowflies, everybody run! I swear this event is even harder than it was in Splatoon 2. Just basically stick to a wall if you're being targeted and let your teammates deal with the horde of rushing salmonids and switch when they switch targets. But that's not the only event. There's a meter that fills up at the end of basically every mission. And once it's full, you have a chance of encountering a king salmonid. Currently, there's only one, Kohuzuna, and these guys mean business. Boss salmonids have a large health bar and are a trial to take down. Mr. Grizz gives you an egg launcher which lets you fire the golden eggs you collect from bosses at the king salmonid. If you manage to take down the salmonid, you are given scales in 3 tiers, bronze, silver, and gold, each with increasingly levels of rarity respectively. You're always given a decently small amount of scales. Winning and losing doesn't necessarily increase the chance of you getting scales, just gives you a little more. The best advice I've heard for clearing these waves is to use 1 golden egg to one-shot most bosses, and you get 3 for the price of 1. What a deal! Shut the f up. Salmon Run is a trial of itself, but it's super fun, especially if you put together a team of 4 friends and communicate with each other. But there is one more mode to talk about. Heads up, minor spoilers ahead. I'll be going over the opening of the story mode to after the first world. Everything after leaving the first world will not be touched. Skip ahead to this time code if you want to go in blind. That is your warning. So during the opening of the game, it mentions a grate with a shifty-looking old dude poking his head up from the sewer. Following him leads you into the crater, a large hole that seems to be filled with this strange fuzzy ooze. Here you meet Craig Cuttlefish, senior advisor to the Squidbeak Splatoon. He warns of the Octarians, who he claims have stolen the great Zapfish that's supposed to be powering Splatsville, like they've done twice before, and you now have to get it back. He armors you with the hero suit and the hero shot after a moment of awkward silence, and you're off. Upon inspection of the fuzzy ooze, it turns out to be some pretty bad stuff. When you touch it, your character quickly grows a bunch of brown fur that covers their body and causes a respawn. However, it can be cleared up by using your little buddy. So at the start of the game, when you get to customize your character, you also get to customize your companion, a small fry that follows you around and can surprisingly clear up the fuzzy ooze by eating it with the power of power eggs that you find throughout the levels. Little Buddy can also be used as a distraction against enemies or deal damage over time to them. Speaking of, upon your first encounter with an Octarian, you realize something isn't quite right. It's covered in fur similar to the fuzzy ooze, but it's probably nothing. Let's keep going. After going through 3 levels, you are alerted that 2 other agents are looking for Cuttlefish, and an ominous voice who says they've found him. Well, after one more level, we find out who that was. DJ Octavio, the main villain of the past 2 Splatoon games, who claims that Cuttlefish is behind his Octarian troops' disappearance, which Cuttlefish immediately snaps back, demanding the Great Zapfish. Immediately, you are thrown into battle, where you have to shoot Octavio's mech hands back at him by inking them up. Then after getting knocked out of his mech and getting splatted, he starts to suck up all the ink you throw at him. So you just throw Small Fry at him, who gets stuck in the nozzle, and you're free to shoot his hands back at him like before. After inking him up 2 more times, his mech explodes and he's sent flying into the air and back down onto the ground. Cuttlefish mentions how it was too easy, almost like he wasn't using the Great Zapfish's power, which Octavio backs up, saying he didn't steal it this time. And then Fuzzy Ooze erupts from the ground, sucking Octavio, his mech, Cuttlefish, and you down into a pit, with you losing all your hero gear. Then panning up to 3 people who look suspiciously familiar, before fading to white. You wake up on an island surrounded by water, with a huge rocket ship over in the distance. There's a bunch... Oh god.
They're multiplying. Why, they're on every corner.
Upon getting up, you run over to some people calling for you, and find Agents 1 and 2, also known as Callie and Marie, the idols known as the Squid Sisters from Splatoon 1. The cousins introduced their captain, who was actually the original Agent 3 from Splatoon 1. After a little bit of fun banter between the 2 of them and the silent captain, you are filled in that this place is called Alterna, and you're actually right underneath the crater. There are 6 sites, not including the Rocket Island, and they put a tracker on their grandpa Cuttlefish, but are getting strong signals from 3 different areas. So you set off on your mission to find their grandpa. In the overworlds for the sites, there are kettles leading to different stages, along with treasure hidden around. That treasure includes little collectibles for your locker, table turf cards, sunken scrolls, which is how this game handles its behind-the-scenes lore, sardinium, which can be used in this game's skill tree, and more power eggs that can be used to clear more fuzzy ooze. Little Buddy can also sniff out hidden treasures for you to collect. Upon entering the first level, you are greeted by an AI called Orca, who is a navigation system for Alterna citizens. It lets you know that by completing these missions, it will reward you with power eggs and logs, which it then threatens you not to share said logs. Power eggs are required to enter some stages, but you shouldn't run out of any. The reward bonuses and hub worlds should set you up with enough that you'll never have to worry about it, assuming you don't go blowing them constantly. This game's story mode takes a page out of Splatoon 2's Octo expansion, which sets up levels as challenges and punishes you for failing by just straight up killing you, which is fun. You are given a selection of weapons and have to use what you're given to get through the level. After going through the levels and clearing up a lot of fuzzy ooze, you reach the end of the first site, where you run into 3 mysterious masked strangers, and yeah, just kidding, they immediately reveal themselves to be deep cut. Hey, at least Callie's enjoying herself. Anyways, the group says that they're bandits out to find the treasure hidden in Alterna, and that there's nothing we can do to stop them, blah blah blah, before vanishing in a cloud of smoke. After that, we're free to head on, but this is where I'll stop because I don't want to spoil the rest of the story mode for you. Overall, it's a pretty solid story mode, but there are a few small issues that I have with it. For most of the game, there's not a lot of tension until the end. Yes, there are a few messages with Cuttlefish where he's being held hostage, which does raise it a little bit, but overall it's kind of lacking in that department until the end. However, what it lacks in tension, it makes up for having some of the best writing and jokes in the series yet. I found myself laughing to a lot of the moments in the game, with arguably the best joke in the series after beating the game, which I will not spoil. All the characters in the story mode are really well written, with a lot of the awkward silence moments really getting a good chuckle out of me. And I know I made fun of them earlier, but Deep Cut really shines as characters in this story mode, with them becoming probably my favorite idol group yet. So overall, while not being the best part of the game, it is basically a training ground for a bunch of weapons, and for what it's worth, it's a damn good training ground. They did not have to make it as good as it is, so I really appreciate it. So that's pretty much it for the main meat and bones of Splatoon 3. However, there are some other things I want to touch on, mainly Splatfest. Splatfest is an event in which the skies turn dark and there's a party going on all over Splatsville, with the Deep Cut performing various songs with their main theme, Anarchy Rainbow, which is a certified bop. There's also a questionnaire that people playing Splatoon can answer, and then the game splits them into teams, pinning them against each other in turf wars. Winners are decided by 4 factors. Sneak Peek, which is where you collect shells by leveling up your catalog, which can then be used in the shell-out machine. Popularity, which answer got picked the most. And the Open and Pro mode Clouts, which goes up every time you win a match. Each category earns a different amount of points at the end of Splatfest, with Open mode Clouts giving 15 points to the winner of that category and the rest netting you 10. The team with the most points overall wins. With Splatoon 1 and 2 there were 2 teams, but Splatoon 3 introduced 3 teams, and with that comes Tricolor Turf Wars. Basically at the Splatfest halftime, the lead team is shown. At that point, they can defend in Tricolor matches, where 4 team members from the first place team battle it out in a turf war against 2 members from the second and third place teams. The 2 losing teams work together to cover more area than the defenders and can also collect ultra signals that, while they make you vulnerable for a period of time before activating, lets one of the members of Deep Cut send down a sprinkler of doom that inks the area around it. That member is based on which team got it and what team that member is on. Yes, they do pick teams. Currently at the time of recording, there have been 3 Splatfest. The Splatfest world premiere, essentially a demo of the game, gave rock, paper, and scissors. I was on Team Rock and Rock won. Next was when the game actually came out, and its theme was what to bring to a deserted island, with the teams being Gear, Grub, and Fun. I was on Team Gear and Gear won. The next Splatfest is a tie-in to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and is which first partner Pokemon would you choose, with the choices being between Grass type, Fire type, or Water type. I was on Team Water, and all the Splatfest footage shown in this video are actually from that Splatfest. And as for the results, we can't skip it. This is it. Here we go. Splatfest results.
Go.
All right.
We're live.
Team Grass, Team Fire, and Team Water. Who will win? Completely blind. Alright. Breaking news, hot off the press. What's got you all flustered? Alright, this is Splatfest results. Get hype! Don't need to tell me twice. Yeah! Alright, here we go. First up, Splatfest sneak peek results. And we already know this one. Team Water's in the lead. That's 10 points to us.
They did not crush it. They won by 0.06%.
No, we crushed it.
No, you did not.
Most votes. Here we go. Popularity. How much you want to bet it's Shiver? It's Water.
Oh,
all right. As long as
7%.
All right.
Exactly.
As long as
Nice.
Open and Pro our one team doesn't get both, we win. All right. What's next? Tell me. Come on. Cloud check. Open and Pro results incoming. Here we go. This is the deciding factor.
Oh, snap.
Holy.
That is a wipe from Water.
Water.
I saw both,
Destroyed.
huh?
Water won.
And last but not least, the part you've been waiting for. Final
Good man.
results, right? Philip.
For all my homies, they shiver.
The overall Splatfest win results go to... Bam! 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 Complete wipe! The reward for participating in Splatfest are Super Sea Snails, which can be given a merch to re-roll ability slots or add stars onto gear. The amount you get is tied to what your rank was during the Splatfest, which can increase by winning games. The ranks go from Fan, Fiend, Defender, Champion, to Ruler, with each rank above that adding a plus whatever number of times you've ranked up beyond Ruler. The lowest amount of snails you can get is 2 per Splatfest by losing the Splatfest and staying at Fan, while the highest is 24 from being Ruler and winning the Splatfest. I love the idea of Splatfest, and the city just seemed so alive during it. With all the Inklings and Octolings jamming out, along with a bunch of purely visual food shops opening. It's all amazing! Along with Splatfest, there's an event that's supposedly called Big Run, which is a version of Salmon Run, but they seem to be invading normal Turf War locations. We don't know everything about it yet. All we have is some footage from a Nintendo Direct and the recent announcement of Chill Season, but it looks super interesting and I cannot wait to see it. Overall, Splatoon 3 is just super cool. There's thought put into every single corner of its world. Practically everything in the game is a canon thing. All the gear and weapons are made by in-universe brands and companies. All the music was made by in-universe bands and artists. It has so much more color and charm compared to your average Call of Duty. Hell, to make a comparison more up my alley, I absolutely adore Team Fortress 2. Its characters are all super fun to watch, and all the lore of the game is super interesting. Even though they are never going to finish it, but that is a topic for another day. And even despite my love for it, I can admit that Splatoon 3's got it beat. Every character has lore, every location has lore, every creature has lore, and it's all just so much fun to experience. There's even an app called Splatnet where you can do some extra stuff. Order gear, check stats, check map rotations, and even get some exclusive gear and rewards by completing challenges called Wandercrust. You get a game like this every once in a blue moon, and this is one of those Nintendo IPs that you can just tell from its first outing that if it didn't do well, they would have just dropped it. But they didn't. Splatoon 3 sold 3.45 million copies in the first 3 days alone. And honestly, I couldn't be happier about it. It shows how much care was put into Splatoon as a franchise, and shows how much people care about it. So, what's my answer to before? Is Splatoon 3 a good game? Yes. Definitely, absolutely. And we've still got DLC coming up for Splatoon 3 in new weapons, gear, and Fallen Adventures that I believe was teasing Pearl and Marina of Off the Hook. I am super excited to see what the future holds for this game, because we still don't even know everything about it. We'll just have to wait and see. And I believe that's a wrap. So I'll see you all next time. Peace out, and stay fresh out there. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. So, a year, huh? Talk about a wait between uploads. I really apologize for it. I had plans for a Pokemon video that just wasn't gonna happen. But yeah, I'm gonna rework that script into a Now and Then with Scarlet and Violet not when it comes out, but sometime down the line. Hopefully. And I have other things in the works, other quote-unquote 2 things. A College Nights thing, I believe we're calling it, where it's just me and some friends from college playing co-op video games. And then I have a Sonic the Hedgehog playthrough with some of my other friends that is just us messing around. So yeah, it'll be fun. I have stuff that I want to get out. I have a ton of ideas. But yeah. Also, check out everyone who helped with the video. Names should be on the end card somewhere. And also links in the description as always. Please go check them out. They helped out a lot. And I believe that's it. So yeah, stay tuned. I have stuff in the works, I promise. And thanks for watching, seriously. Like, subscribe, that whole YouTuber spiel that everybody hates. And I will see you next time. And seriously, stay fresh out there.